morning and welcome to story time. Today I'm here in Navan Library and I have Mr. Wolf with me, and you can see because we're very close together, he's being very good and he has his mask on. So today I'm going to read you his story, which is called Socks for Mr. Wolf. And it's a story about Mr. Wolf and these socks that he loves very much, and how when something happens to one of his socks, he has to take a journey around Ireland to find out how to mend his sock. So we'll go ahead and start. And I just wanted to show you here the nice end papers in the story, which give you a really close-up view of Mr. Wolf's socks and why he loves them so much, because they have this lovely, bright, beautiful pattern. And here on the title page, you can see he's just opening a package. So this is probably when he first got his socks. And you can see they've just come out of this package. And so maybe they were a special present for him or sent to him from someone who lives far away. Okay, and here, Socks from Mr. Wolf, and it says a woolly adventure around Ireland. And you can see here is a map of Ireland, and it shows some of the places that Mr. Wolf travels when he's going to mend his socks. Okay, so whose socks are these? Do they belong to this little bird? No, they're way too big for the bird. What about this turtle? Do you think they could belong to this little turtle down here? I don't think so. He's got 4 legs and there are only 2. What about the cat? Do you think they could belong to the cat? No, they're too big for the cat as well. No, these socks belong to Mr. Wolf. And Mr. Wolf loved his socks. They were cozy, they were colorful. Mr. Wolf felt taller when he wore them. These socks made him feel amazing. He felt so great and so wonderful when he wore them that they made him feel like dancing. So you can see here he's doing some Irish dancing, and then he's doing some ballet dancing, and then he leans over to take a bow, and he notices, uh-oh, there in the very, very bottom of his sock, there is a tiny hole. So, it was only a small hole, and Mr. Wolf carried on as normal, and he hoped that no one would notice the hole. But the hole was getting bigger and bigger and bigger. So then Mr. Wolf thought, okay, I have to do something about this. And he thought then maybe he could mend the hole. And the first thing he thought of were plasters. Now, were plasters a good idea? No. Plasters were a crazy idea, and plasters didn't work. Plasters got stuck on his hands, and they got stuck on his tail, but they did not mend the hole. So the next thing Mr. Wolf tried was sticky tape. And he put sticky tape, tried to put it on his socks, but it just got stuck all over his nose and all around his legs, and that did not mend the hole either. So the last thing Mr. Wolf tried was glue. Now, was glue a good idea? No, glue definitely didn't work. It just made a big sticky mess. Poor Mr. Wolf. Nothing was working. But then Mr. Wolf had an idea, and his idea was maybe a book would help. And can you see where he is looking for a book? He's where I am. He's in a library, and he found all kinds of books about socks and about knitting. So he came up with all kinds of great ideas for how he could mend his socks. And when he left the library, he was full of all kinds of plans and ideas for beautiful socks of every length and color. And in fact, he was so busy thinking about wool and about how he would mend his socks that he did not notice this little animal right down here, standing right outside the library. And this is a little sheep. And what do you think the sheep is thinking when it sees this wolf coming towards it very quickly and with lots of determination? I think that this sheep was worried that the wolf was going to eat it. And so the sheep ran off right through the forest, and all it left behind was this little string of wool. Now, Mr. Wolf didn't even notice there was a sheep because he was so busy thinking about his socks. But he did notice this little string of wool going through the forest, and he thought that was fantastic. Some wool, just what I was looking for. So, lost in his book, Mr. Wolf followed the wool, and he followed it along the beach. So he's just reading his book and thinking about knitting, and he isn't even thinking about what that wool might be attached to. But he followed it, and he followed it to the city, and here he is, he's following it, he's going across the river around the spire in Dublin, and he's still not even noticed it's attached to this sheep. He's just thinking, imagine what I can knit with all this wool. But the poor sheep. The sheep is just thinking, oh my goodness, I can't believe it. I've run through the forest, I've run along the beach, I'm in the city, and this wolf is still behind me. So the sheep got onto a train, and the wolf followed the wool onto the train, and he was really happy to sit down after all his walking and relax and think about what his socks might look like. And the poor sheep on the other end of the train is just thinking, I can't believe it. I'm on the train now, and look, there's the wolf on the other end. How will I get rid of this wolf? So the train went all the way across Ireland. And when Mr. Wolf got off the train, he discovered that the end of the wool was attached to this sheep here. He finally saw the sheep, and he can see that the sheep is looking a little bit worried. So he said, I'm sorry. Don't be worried. I only wanted a little wool. Now, after all that traveling, all of that running away from the wolf, the sheep said, oh well, I was getting too warm anyway. So the sheep was happy to share some of the wool, and in fact, the sheep is here helping Mr. Wolf by reading the knitting instructions while he is mending his socks. And it turned out Mr. Wolf was quite a good knitter, and soon he's mended his socks there, and so he made them into a beautiful new pair of socks. And in fact, he made a second pair in case of holes. And he made some things for the other animals as well. So he made a little hat for the turtle. He made some ear muffs for the cat, some leg warmers for the sheep to keep her legs warm, and a scarf for the bird. And the bird is actually taking a little bit of the leftover wool back for her nest. And that is the end of the story. Thank you so much for listening, and I'll say goodbye now.